Today we are going to talk about limiting beliefs and what those look like in our daily talk, in our daily world. A lot of it is just sounding like I'm not good enough, or I'm too busy, or I can't change because it hasn't happened yet and I keep trying. The one that I get stuck with a lot is it's not perfect, I don't want to do it. And that really are the limiting beliefs that stop us from doing the things that we really want and to start on our health journey. I want to talk today about that negative self-talk and how the Lord's view of that and the thoughts that he has of us don't match that. And the story is Gideon. And it's to set the stage a little bit. Gideon is under an oak tree and he is working in the wine press, which is not normally where you thresh wheat. And that's what he's doing. And the angel of the Lord comes to him and talks to him. So I'm going to start reading in verse 12. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my Lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why is all this happening to us? And where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?'" So when we first see Gideon, he's scared and hiding from the Midianites, and the Lord calls him a mighty warrior. One of the big things to think about is what God thinks of us versus what we think of ourselves. God called him a mighty warrior, and at the time, I bet he did not feel like a mighty warrior in any way. And Gideon questions the Lord and what he sees. It's the limiting beliefs of what he is living through versus what the Lord is telling him and what the Lord has promised him. And so I'll keep reading. It says, the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" And the Lord, it's not always our strength, but the Lord's strength that we have to lean on in order to do that. And he reminds Gideon of this. And Gideon again questions him, "Pardon me, my Lord, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest, and I am the least in my family." And when you look at that and the things that we do and how we want to portray ourselves, and a lot of times we don't feel good enough to do the things that we're called to do, or even in the day, the things that we want to do for a daily routine. Those limiting beliefs we place on ourselves a lot of the times. From a perception, maybe he was in the weakest clan and in the weakest family, but that's not where God called him to be as the mighty warrior he is. So I love in verse 16, the Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down the Midianites, leaving none alive." The Lord is always with us when we do things, if we invite him along the journey. And that's why it's so important to invite him along our health journey with us. And the last thing that Gideon says is, "If I have found favor in your eyes, please give me a sign. This is really you talking back to me." How often do we wonder if we're really hearing from the Lord and the things that he has for us? He's still unsure of himself, and the Lord has called him 3 times and told him that this is what it's going to be and this is how I'm going to help you. And we do this a lot of the time. One of the last things that Gideon really wanted to do once he was called to do it was he even went under the cover of darkness. And in verse 27 it says, "So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him, but he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, and he did it at night rather than during the day." So as we look at Gideon and the things that we have, really looking at the process that Gideon went through is a lot like the process of what we need to go through as well in order to get away from some of these limiting beliefs. So we're going to talk about that renewing of our minds. In Romans 12:2, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and prove what God's will is, what his good, pleasing, and perfect will is." Our mindset has to be reset from these negative beliefs and the things that we think. When we let God transform our minds and our thoughts become, or his thoughts become our thoughts, and we let go of our thoughts and give them to him, we have so much better of a time thinking of the way that we see things differently. And that really is the goal, to be able to do this. So as we look at what life was meant to be and how it was meant to be lived moving forward, we got to move those mountains. Mark 11:23 says, "Truly I tell you, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in their heart, but believes what they say will happen, it will be done for them. So as we start to look, we want to stop that constant doubting that we have. His timing for us is perfect, and we can replace that truth of his perfect timing with the fact that our doubts are so limiting to what we can do. Fear holds you back. Or that statement is, fear has no hold on me. The Lord has us in the things that we do, and if we tell that mountain to move, it will move. As you worry about what others think, a lot of the times we don't start things on our health journey because we're afraid of what others think. You don't have to go tell the world that you're starting a new exercise program or that you're working on changing your eating habits. You can move silently. The more that you have just one or two parts of accountability, the less you feel like everybody is watching you, and it makes it easier to start to do new things. Your worry on what others will think will also help you step out in faith and confidence if you do it silently with just one or two people as accountability versus trying to be perfect for everyone and be all things to everyone. The other hard thing about telling so many people what you're doing is that you end up hearing everybody's unique. And I talk about that in one of the lives that I did. And we don't have to do the same thing that everyone else does. And when we tell a whole bunch of people, you get a lot of people coming back and saying, oh, well, I did this and it worked really well. Or that doesn't work. You shouldn't try that. You need to figure out what you and the Lord have talked about for your routine and start on it. Get one or two people to help hold you accountable to it and get moving. Life was meant to be lived moving forward, and that's really where we want to go. I talk a lot about negative thoughts and the things that we think in day 23 of the live post, if you go watch it. And then on day 24, I follow up with what that positive thinking looks like and how to change those thoughts. So as you're going through and really looking at, okay, what are the thoughts that I'm having? Are they negative? Are they thoughts that the Lord would have? Are they more those limiting beliefs? You can go get those strategies to start helping you move forward. It really is about figuring out what has a hold on you, what fears and what doubts that you're dealing with, and really using God's word to prove those wrong. So if you have any of those fears or doubts and aren't sure what scriptures to use, place those in the comments or shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to help you find verses to go along with those to prove your doubts and your fears wrong based off God's word. Once you do that, you'll find endless possibilities of how to start and get going, and it's going to be wonderful. So thank you today for all that you do, and I encourage you to just get started today.